Okay, I'm Michael Loth. I will be substituting for Tracy Pollock in this building committee meeting. It's 4:46, February 10th, 2025. Item 2, roll call. Tracy Pollock is absent, excused. We have Russ Ewert substituting.
Here.
Russ is here. We have Brian Medved.
Here.
And we have Meg Cutts. And I, Michael Loth, am here. Item 3, agenda revisions and approval.
Move to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Brian Medved, second by Meg Cutts. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Okay, item 4, approve minutes. Approval of the January 27th, 2025 meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Okay, Brian Medved with the motion. Russ Ewert with the second. Any discussion?
I'll abstain since I wasn't here for the last
Okay,
meeting.
we have an abstain by Meg Cutts. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Okay, item 5, reports and updates. Unair conditioned spaces. That's gonna be Frank Lord.
Thank you. Yes, so at the most recent Buildings and Grounds Committee, the Buildings and Grounds Committee inquired about which areas within our schools do not currently have air conditioning. And utilizing the building automation systems along with the knowledge of our B&G staff and on-site staff in general, I have identified a general overview of which areas do not have AC within the buildings. With the exception of a few unoccupied spaces such as storage areas, mechanical rooms, custodial closets, etc., the high school and middle school are, I would consider fully air conditioned. The 4 elementary schools each have sections of their buildings in cases which look like just about half of the buildings, but maps can be a little bit offsetting. But for the most part, areas that were not necessarily reconstructed during the referendum or a time thereafter. So something to keep in mind when looking at each map is that these areas also include various spaces that are not designed or do not have intended air conditioning. As such, the mechanical rooms, storage spaces, vestibules, stairways, etc. The maps are attached for, yes, general reference, and there is no in-depth study done on this to where the airflow starts and stops as far as air conditioning as of right now. But I think this gives a pretty good idea of what we were talking about or looking for at the last committee meeting.
Okay, I didn't go back and look at the last meeting. What was in the budget for getting started on these air conditioning? Was it 115,000?
I believe
That was 100.
100?
Just added up. Oh, where'd you go? Too many tabs. Let's see. Right here. I think it was about 100,000 for, yes, for,
100K each one.
yeah, for Mac and, yep,
For 2 of them, right?
2, Mac and, sorry, I switched everyone around.
County line.
County line.
Mac and County Line. Okay.
100,000 even.
So if we look at County Line, have you thought, and we'll go to Mac next, but when you look at County Line, have you considered where we might get the most bang for the buck on the 100K? Is it the west side of the building, maybe?
Yeah, I think the west side, and, you know, obviously with a lot of architectural input as far as the HVAC design goes, for getting a good building flow and layout to cover as much hallway and open space as we can, to really kind of be effective and efficient to offset dedicated units to, you know, let's say per 2 rooms or per 3 rooms, would be something I would need to get prior to. But generally speaking, I think that the west side is the side that probably gets the warmest as of right now during the times of,
Yeah.
you know, the heat or cooling season.
Do you think, I have no idea what 100K would cover. Do you think we'd get most of the west side? Or,
The design of it, it could either be pretty close with 100,000, or it could be dramatically off, depending on
Yeah.
how, it might be more beneficial to maybe go to a chiller system, which would be double the price, if not double and a half, but then that would cover, you know, a wider area, so I guess how I'm trying to say is per square footage, I guess the breakdown of which units and the best airflow design in our building would really be the sole pusher. And I think that the 100,000, in all honesty, that was a ballpark per square footage at the time that would cover the same amount in each building in order to continue to move forward. So there might be a greater master plan prior to that, but as of right now, that's kind of the thought process once we get to that point.
yeah, okay. And then for, I think MacArthur was gonna be kind of a difficult building in some cases. So were you thinking individual units for some classrooms, or, cause it sounds like that's what you were thinking just now for County Line.
There was discussion over that, and then it somewhat moved to small rooftop units that could hit roughly 4 to 6 rooms
Okay.
apiece, which would be relatively inexpensive, speaking of, you know, commercial setting.
Yeah.
But the big one would be the gymnasium, and thinking, you know, what we could do with that, because I know they get awfully warm in there in the cooling times, or cooling season, I should say, sorry. But definitely, I'll definitely be taking this a little more in-depth as we get closer to that time to try and figure out different routes well beforehand to discuss.
Okay, sounds good. Brian?
Is this being looked at with the study that's being done at all of our buildings? Look at an efficient way to accomplish this and putting the time frame into it and the overall cost? I know in our newer buildings, our upgrades, we typically did the individual classroom units.
Sure.
Is that the most cost-effective way to do it, or is that something we're looking at long-term? I mean, for me, like a mini split would handle the air conditioning if we
Sure.
already had the heating.
Sure.
Rather than replacing all the air handlers or the chillers.
Yep.
Or adding chillers.
Sure.
Seems like a more affordable option.
Yeah, that is by far the most affordable option between the single units. But the big difference there is the efficiency for long-term, just due to energy use, whether it's electric, gas, whether it's cooling, or what plumbing needs to go in versus if we get a much larger chiller system with 2 air handlers, that is triple the cost up front, but, and I'm speaking out loud here with calculations, you know, 10, 15, 20 years down the road until its life expectancy, what will we save in energies up until that point? Which there are plenty of well-versed engineers that can figure that out, but I don't know if we go into that extent during this study, as opposed to just our physical conditions and infrastructure, but it will absolutely be at the end of the study on recommendations and moving forward for something, once we discuss additional cooling and electrical upgrades and things of that nature.
And I assume the long-term plan is to have air conditioning in all the buildings.
Yep.
So we're trying to come up with a plan to cost-effectively do that
Right.
long-term.
Right,
And you're looking at what, a 10-year project, a 15-year project?
yeah, I would say 10-year,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. I think having them take a look at that would be helpful while they're doing the study on their
Sure.
facilities.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
All right. Russ?
In regards to the planning stages that we're in, obviously this is something they're gonna identify as a need for these buildings as far as upgrades go. I think that's the whole point of it, is them to bring up these topics, and then we take each one of those topics, prioritize it, and break it down into the level in which you're talking about. My concern is that we have the 2 schools on here, but we have 4 elementary schools that don't.
Oh, yes, as far as the 5-year, yeah, those are, they missed it by the 1 year. So on this next one, we technically would be bringing on the next two schools. But
Okay.
we have had some minor discussions over that and
Yeah, I mean,
between the split up
when we
versus
discussed
consistency of-
ESSER dollar spending,
Sure.
we ended up settling on the middle school because that affected all students that came through there rather than
Definitely.
one elementary school or two elementary schools.
Right.
But this is a longer range approach to it, so it'll probably be done in 2 schools 1 year, 2 schools the next year.
Yeah, I think that would be
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
But as far as
Sure.
that, the most effective way, obviously, you're gonna have to, begin that research side of it.
Yep.
I don't think we have to wait for the facilities use study to come forward. I'm sure it's a recommendation that's gonna be on there.
Sure.
It's one that's already on the board's mind clearly and the administration's mind. But as far as the technicalities of how we're gonna do it and what the best way to do it is,
Yep.
yeah, it'd be as consistent as possible, and something might cost us more upfront, but
Yeah.
better suit us long range.
Yep. Definitely.
But I think the importance too is getting the study back to understand what our current HVAC capabilities are, because there might be need for repair to that prior to upgrading as well. So, once we have more information, we can build out this 5-year
Yeah.
plan with more
Yeah.
specificity.
Or an upgrade instead of a repair, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see, Rockfield has some rooms on the west side of the building and some on the south. Of course, there's a gym that's not air conditioned either, so that might be a big one. And then Amy Bell has a lot of south and, some on the west also. Be nice to pick those areas up first when the time comes. There's a few, I don't know how many rooms were added during the referendum, but I was a little surprised to see, I don't know if this is accurate or not, but on the east end of the building for Amy Bell, at least that end room there, but maybe all of those are new. So it's a little hard to read with the yellow there, maybe room 126.
Yep.
I'm not sure which other ones, if there's any other new ones there, but that was referendum and it's not air conditioned. It's kind of odd.
At the very least, there was a lot of revamp there, and I'm very surprised that there was no cooling added to those areas.
Yeah, so maybe, I don't know if anyone remembers, room 125 might be an old room. We'd have to go and look, I guess. Might be an old part of the school, but maybe all of those rooms right there are new. I don't know if you can remember from being in the
I
school.
will be there at 2:30 tomorrow afternoon, so I will,
Yeah, take a look.
I
It
will
might
send
be
you a message.
everything east of 124. So 124, 125, 126, all of those in there might be new.
Okay.
But without being in the school, it's a little hard for me to remember what was all added there. All right, any other questions? I think that does it. No action item there. And we'll move on, unfinished business, there is none. Item 7A, new business, Rockfield Music Garden, and that is Frank Lord.
Thank you. Yes, so Girl Scout Troop 1216 is looking for a way to enhance the experiences of all the students at Rockfield Elementary. They received a request for a donation to the music program on behalf of Mrs. McConnell's family. This donation request prompted the idea of a music garden on the playground. Troop 1216 has committed their time and energy, including countless recesses, to the preparation and pre-planning of this project, and sees it as their big project that will give back to the school. Give back to the school they have spent so much time learning and laughing in. After review of the project or building site modification request form that was submitted on behalf of Rockfield PTA, Girl Scout Troop 1216, and Dana, administration does not foresee any significant ongoing costs or operational hindrance and is in support of this project and addition. The cost of material and installation donated is $7,157. The estimated yearly ongoing cost is a pretty basic mulch and grass seed at best, but under $100 is what we can put a stamp on that. And with that, I was going to have Dana stand up and just give a quick once-over of a little more detail that maybe I did not touch base on.
You can just
come
sit
sit
next
next
to
to
Frank.
Certainly, so the music garden would be, the funding for that would be covered under the donations that the McConnell family had organized that they wanted to donate to the music department here, and our music department is pretty well stocked, so we thought that doing something outside where students could be free-flowing and creative with it would be a really good idea. So coordinated that work with Mr. Lord, and we looked at what part of the playground we could look to enhance a little bit and what we could add. So I met with the Girl Scouts for many days to discuss different options. They were super creative with the planning and came up with some good ideas. We also are looking at the resources to be used would be, the bulk of it would be things that we would purchase or that would get purchased through the PTA from that funding source. And then it was the same group that Germantown Community Library used. So we felt good about that. They had a good experience with the company and just want to add it. And then there'd be a few things that the Girl Scout troop would actually build themselves with as part of their process. And then they would help with the installation when it came time.
And if you remember back to the January 27th board meeting, Girl Scout group from Rockfield came and presented and spoke a little bit about their idea
Right.
moving forward.
I like its location. Is that a dry spot, or will we have to build it up a little bit?
I believe that's a dry enough spot. We'll build up maybe a little bit on, we have a little bit of a decline, but a safe space nonetheless. Nothing too, I guess, over the top as far as foundation.
Okay. Yeah, I like it because, you know, just in case the parking lot ever has to grow to the south a little bit, we won't have to move the outdoor music feature, you know, right away. So I don't know if we're at the stage of moving the parking lot or anything to help pick up and drop off of students, but I know it's been discussed a little bit that it's not been ideal since the referendum. So I think this is a good spot to have it. It'll be far enough away that if the whole playground has to move a little south, it'll just get absorbed into it'll
Right.
be more in the middle of the playground than on the southern edge. So I like where it is. Anything? Anyone else? Yeah, Brian?
Yeah, a couple questions. I do like this project. I think anytime we can get the outdoor learning opportunities. Dan, I think several years ago you came to us for a garden outside. Are you guys still using that?
Mhm.
That's a great opportunity for students in multi classrooms to use, and you got math and science and a lot of different areas that you can use to have the outdoor learning. Something I'd like to consider, if there's funds available down the road for donation, is to do the outdoor learning center like they have at Amy Bell. I think all of our elementaries could use that, and I think you guys can take the lead and show what that can be used for. I think that would be another great opportunity for you guys to grow that type of learning.
Yeah.
So, something to consider. But, love it. Thank you.
Mr. Russ, you were
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic project. Great memorial to a staff member that was with us. Amazing that the students were involved in kind of leading this project or involved in it to the point they were. We loved having them doing the presentation. With all that being said, I think it would have been nice to have this on the front end of that.
Yeah, I tried. I submitted it in November.
Sure.
Just took a little bit with some of the other building committee.
Yeah, yep.
Agenda items, so I agree, it would have been nice.
But that's internal communication that can get worked out, I'm sure. And I appreciate your submitting it in November and having that. I think it's gonna be fantastic for the school itself. Kind of echo what Brian said, if we can ever support that, and maybe our study's gonna bear out some of that stuff we have with Amy Bell and their outdoor learning area. It's just a fantastic secondary educational site and environment for the kids. This will just be another addition to it. So thank you for allowing them to take that project and push it forward and push it up that way. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay, I will take a motion.
I'll make a motion to move forward with a positive recommendation to the full board to approve the installation of a music garden on the Rockfield Elementary Playground in recognition of Mrs. McConnell, funded by the Rockfield PTA, pending approval of the donation at the board meeting.
Second.
Okay, motion by Meg Cutts, second by Brian Medved. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you. Okay, next item is 7B, and that is the 2024-2025 roofing projects. And Frank Lord, please.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so Germantown High School roof section E and Kennedy Middle School roof section F are in need of replacement for this 2024-2025 fiscal year. They are on the 2024-25 capital projects list within the 5-year capital improvement plan that was recently approved. Each of these sections have we have had numerous repairs on within the last calendar year and consistently demonstrate the integral need for or of replacement. The cost of both replacements presented is equal to the estimated cost that was presented with the 5-year capital improvement plan and are not to exceed. Staff received competitive bids from 5 reputable contractors. These roof replacements would be tentatively scheduled for summer work over summer break and making necessary accommodations pending location and everything of summer learning programs and other activities and or events. Attached, I have the locations with the Germantown High School. You can tell this is one of our, I mean, it doesn't look like it is, but this is one of our largest solo flat cross rooftops that we do have. And if you try and look in real hard, you can see it looks like there's a little city on top. We have a lot of old curb areas and HVAC equipment and devices up there yet that have been abandoned. We've had numerous leaks in that section within the last year, and even trickled a little bit over the last year, about a year and a half. So this is a really good roof replacement for this year. And then with Kennedy, this is an area right off the courtyard there. Another one that plays has a really big impact on the drainage for the entire L around that courtyard there. And we're getting some mispitching, and we've had several repairs in the area, actually one that we currently still cannot locate without removing all the ballast. So another one that has kind of been that please replace me now list.
Okay, and there's a green rectangle to the north. Is that anything, or?
Yes, I actually I have received some numbers on that, but is not finalized. We have some brickwork and masonry work to be doing on that far north side wall. It is definitely subject to water intrusion and is getting worse year after year. So I'm just putting that together because it is something where if it's not an over-the-top cost, I'd like to kind of start chipping away at it.
Okay, sounds good. Right, any questions, anyone? No? Okay, I'll take a motion.
Well, I was just looking at the bids, and it's always interesting, the wide discrepancy between the bids. Is there anything different that the other ones are you know, they're doing that explains a like $100,000 difference, or are they all, it's apples to apples?
It is apples to apples. We give them what they request as far as materials and layout. The only thing that, and in fact, our materials are all ran through a separate supplier company, so we don't pay the increase through the contractors, and that way even the materials are the exact same. So between myself and the consultant, we literally make it as flat playing field as possible. I think a lot of this is, need for work, scheduled work already. I know pending some of their companies, they might be a year out, but depending on the size of the project, they might be able to fit it in for a little bit less expensive, so they might drop it for that reason, that type of thing. So I think that plays a really big part in, because frankly, I think every roofer out there would love to get the school district as a contract, so.
I think so.
That right there should keep them somewhat competitive,
Yeah.
so.
Just
Yeah, but
curious.
it never ceases to amaze me.
Right.
Frank, did you go back to performance? I think in the past, we've used performance quite a bit.
Yep.
Did we go back to them and ask them if they would match the other bid, or give us a better deal if we give them both rather than just one?
So there was always thought process on that, but we also have a very good relationship with Langer. And I guess I didn't want to even get close to opening that door to either one of them, where it might seem like we're leaning and trying to inhale or take on both, contracts. Now,
I'm just looking at it strictly dollars.
And I completely agree. I think what they know going into it is that they could play a high and low on both, or they could try and go for that low. I mean, they're all.
I mean, they're so close, that's what I'm saying.
Right. But, yeah, at the end of the day, I think we did have this discussion even a little bit last year, right? But I'm not a penny pincher when it comes to quality, but when we do have the contractors that we do, I think have had very good history with all of them, that lowest cost wins, I guess, is what it comes down to. Again, because all material is the same, we take away all the variables that way, it's pretty much just the installation at that point.
Right.
So, I do not go back, but I think there is that intent. I know in many years past, I've had several that will come to me and say, hey, what do we need for both of them type of deal, but I just try to stay out of that roofing politics as close as possible.
I mean, you are delivering to two different buildings, so I get the difference.
Yep.
but-
Yeah, same as last year,
I
it
just
just,
thought maybe by
the different
shot.
location and, no, right. But I think this is, for our side, the most cost effective, is to go this route and know that they have to beat 4 other numbers in order to receive it. And nothing is, handed. Although if we did have 1 and 3 contractors that I wish did not put a bid in, there is a chance there would be a, further discussion, just because then we are talking about quality versus.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, we went with that with the referendum. There was some that we got bids from that didn't have a track record that we could even look at.
Sure.
That's questionable, but if
Yep.
they have good track records, I'm okay with that.
Definitely. Yep. Yeah, we've had, all of these have been a good experience here, mostly Langer, Performance, and Pioneer. And I mean, even Christensen, we've had quite a bit of work done through them as well, so.
Okay.
All right. I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to move forward with a positive recommendation to the Finance Committee to approve the replacement of GHS Roof Section E using Performance Roofing in the amount not to exceed $338,958, and KMS Roof Section F using Langer Roofing and Sheet Metal in the amount not to exceed $81,100, funded out of the Fund 41 Capital Improvements budget.
Second.
Okay, motion by Meg Cutts, second by Brian Nedved. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Right, and our last item will be 7C, Security and Fire Panel Upgrades. Frank Lord, please.
Yes, thank you.
You are the man.
Spending money.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah, so the district utilizes Securitas technology. which is formerly Stanley Security, for both fire and security and industrial equipment alarm monitoring. Securitas Technology services and maintains the panels and keypads and any other equipment related to operate their monitoring system within our district. Amy Bell, Rockfield, and County Line have all had several service requests made within the last year, with the majority of them revolving around communication errors, faulty notifications, and hardware malfunctions. The influx in service requests prompted B&G and IT staff to find a long-range solution, or at least look into a long-range solution. And after working with Securitas Technology Consultants, staff identified that the panels and hardware, including the phone lines, to be the culprit causing the communication, notification, device malfunctioning, et cetera issues. Many of these repairs incorporate issues with faulty landlines, which has been an ongoing removal thereof as schools and companies install new monitoring systems and fire and safety panels. Due to the age of the panels and keypads, the wear on the devices, and a concern of the ability to repair the phone lines in the future, Securitas Technology Consultants highly recommended upgrading the existing panels to wireless cell panels and keypads. After thorough discussion and looking at our options as far as what we've spent in repairs and call-outs, and what we're looking at in the future as far as IT removing current phone lines, and they've done that, from my awareness over the last year, several of them that are no longer necessary, that we thought it would be beneficial for the ongoing safety and security needs for these sites, and it would be cost-effective, again, saving on the service call repairs and canceling all the phone line agreements that we currently carry in order for the monitoring system to go out, or communicate, I should say. At this time, for consistency purposes, we looked at doing all of the elementary schools because they do all have the same system, as much as we've not had as much of an issue with MacArthur's. We've had a few, and I strongly feel that it's in the near future that they'll be having the same communication errors and device errors as well. The district IT staff confirmed that there is ample network coverage to accommodate for these wireless units, and it should not affect anything in our operating. And this project is part of the 2024 capital improvement project list as well. If approved, the panel installations would be performed by Securitas Technology technicians and scheduled at a time that would not disrupt the daily school operations. The intended or preliminary discussion about installations, a time frame for completion was only 1 day, and potentially a second day just for the keypads and what do I want to say? Training on new keypads if needed. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much what I have. I did connect the proposals for each. You can see there, really the only cost difference, I believe, was County Line, if I'm not mistaken. And that is just because it does have a few more devices and things that are connected to it for coverage, so.
Yeah, I noticed the equipment types were similar.
Yeah, yep.
And is this, is it a cell phone or on our Wi-Fi?
It would be ran through Wi-Fi and the, what's it called?
There's a rooftop antenna in the list of things.
It is.
Makes me think it's cell phone.
It's cell, wireless, there's a fancy name for it. It doesn't happen to say on there. I should have had Nick join me. It is a cellular network, wireless cellular network, but we do have like a booster that essentially would be like an antenna for, as a safety backup, which I believe we actually currently use for radio systems.
Oh,
So it kind of worked together that way.
okay.
Not kind of, it does work together that way.
All right. So this isn't a fire panel replacement, it's like pull the modem out for the phone lines and install this.
Yeah, this is strictly the fire panel itself. In this case, a JCI panel or a simplex, some are simplex yet. That goes and wired into this panel. So whenever anything goes off on this panel, it fires off, notifies the Securitas panel, and then they get notified to send out dispatch or contact as a contact list is laid out.
So that's the panel,
Yep.
the smaller one that's getting updated?
Yep.
Yep,
Yep.
okay. All right, any other question? Yes, Meg?
I guess it's the outdoor multiband and band antenna that you're referring to?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so, just because I don't know anything about it, if your internet goes down, is that affected for
So
the security system, or is it a separate?
So we have, the way that, oh man, I should have, the UPS backup, battery backup works, has its own standing, I don't want to say a server. Signal, that is then held for some hours in order to get by for an emergency cost.
Okay.
Yep, and that actually technically is that's a layout that is brought to us through the state and even federal code laws as far as fire goes, so,
Okay.
NFPA.
All right,
I
thank
forget.
you.
Mm-hmm. Brian?
I'm good.
Russ?
Yeah, some of the questions I was going to.
Okay. All right, I will take a motion.
Motion to move forward with a positive recommendation to the Finance Committee to approve the replacement of security panels for Amyville, County Line, MacArthur, and Rockfield Elementary Schools using Securitas Technologies in the amount of $15,146.03, funded using the Capital Improvements Fund 41.
Second.
Okay, motion by Russ Ewert, second by Brian Medved. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. And it looks like we have one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion to adjourn by Russ Ewert, second by Brian Medved. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries, and we are adjourned at 5:24 PM.